Hi, everyone, and a very good morning to you. We're delighted to have all of you here and online, whoever's seen there. I hope you got a good understanding of, or a glimpse into the world of Royal Enfield by last night with, with all the production that we did there, and then this morning, those of you who rode our latest motorcycle, the Hunter, which we're really excited and proud of. And of course, our development facility here, uh, the technical center, and we've got, of course, I think some of you visited the UKTC, the technology center, is that right? in Bruntingthorpe a few years ago. How many from here were there? Okay, quite a few of you. So it's, of course, this is now a newer setup, but as you've understood, we work super close together. There's not different projects, the same projects run across. And yeah, I mean, I hope once you've been through this, you sort of really get a glimpse of how we operate. And over the rest of the day, we're going to tell you a lot more about what we couldn't show you on the ground. It's Eicher Motors Limited. Royal Enfield, in this case, has come a really long way. I think even when I look at the facilities and the capabilities and the people and what all we're doing, I have to sometimes pinch myself, and because it's a far cry from where we were just a couple of decades ago. But this is really the product of a super focused strategy and a super focused company. That's what we do. We put a huge amount of energy in less number of things, but we do have a really wide approach, and it's always the default for Royal Enfield is always customer centricity. When in doubt, go back to the consumer and understand. Other companies may be competition focused or only business focused or profit motivated, but really at Royal Enfield, we always go back to the consumer, go back to our brand, our ethos, and that's where answers always emerge from. And with all this tremendous success that we've had at Royal Enfield over the last many years, it's a good question to ask, why do we need to change? Because I'm going to talk to you about the enormous changes that we have planned at Royal Enfield. And I believe the time to change is when you're doing really well, when you're on top, when when the opportunity is there. And it also really comes from within, because last couple of years, as we've been in sort of reflection mode, perhaps a little bit, in sitting at home more often than not, and it was a time of reflection, and all of us were able to deeply reflect and see where Royal Enfield is going, and we love where Royal Enfield is going, no doubt. But we also believe there's a better way in doing what we're already doing. And this is something when we talk to our consumers, when we talk to our team, our people, the people who work at Royal Enfield, and all other stakeholders, yourselves, everyone, the whole idea that we need to reorient Royal Enfield has been coming in a very big way. It's come from within. It's come from a realization that we've all had that we need to evolve how we do things, and therefore and that was then therefore distilled into our business planning process, which we do every year. Our business planning process is normally a lot of thought. It's not just, in fact, the numbers are always a consequence. They're just an outcome of the plans that we have for the long term. So, and then of course, the numbers fall into place. There's a little bit of, push and pull that happens, but that happens in every aspect of our business. But, and so we came around to this thought which we all really resonate with, and it's called rebalance. There you go. Rebalance. And the rebalance is that we live in a world that that needs to evolve a bit. And maybe before I get into rebalance, I'll talk to you a bit about our purpose, let's say. And at Royal Enfield, we've always believed that our purpose is in some way to bring equilibrium, harmony between man, machine, and terrain, right? So that's been our guiding force for years. And the rider, the motorcycle, and the terrain that we ride on. And that's driven us to be who we are. That's driven us to understand and to develop and to deliver what we have done to our consumers, to you all. But in this retrospection, what we believed is that we have to widen the scope of this purpose, the man, machine, and terrain. We have to widen it. The man part is not just now rider, it's community, it's the people that it's all our stakeholders. So the man part evolves to that. The machine, which is the motorcycle, is the company, right, as well. And it evolves to the company level, as it were. And the terrain, which is the land that we ride on, is the planet that we inhabit, right? So we truly believe that we need to evolve our thinking to be, so that we can bring harmony in a world which is a bit out of sync in itself, right? The Earth today, with all the problems, I'm talking about the larger sustainability issues, climate change, all of that, it's a world a bit out of sync. And we believe that we need to be part of that solution. And so therefore, to bring the communities that we work with, that we are part of, and the earth that we all inhabit, and we should be a company that is part of the change, part of the positive that we can bring on the table, rather than part of the solution rather than a part of the problem. So that's our starting point of our rebalance approach. And the next point of our rebalance approach is a growth focus. Companies very often sort of, the default, it's different for different companies, of course, but when you don't think enough and when you don't really delve enough, and in our case, for example, when you're making enormous profit margins a few years ago, as you all know, that sort of tends to pull you in, right? It sort of tends to pull you in. We've got to maintain this crazy good profit margin. And we are certainly profit focused. But with all our thinking and introspection, we really believe that we are and we will be, and we'll reorient to becoming a truly growth-focused company. And where does that come from? It comes from a lot of places, but one of them is the opportunity that we see ahead of us. We are, of course, doing really well. We've got 85+% share in the 250cc market in India that we dominate. I was talking to some of you yesterday, even in the above 125cc market in India, we are 1 out of 3 motorcycles sold. That was not the case many years ago. We were 1 out of 10 motorcycles sold in the above 125. So I'm taking out the base commuter bikes and I'm saying everything else, we're 1 out of 3 motorcycles. But the opportunity is that in the Indian motorcycle market, we're still 5-6% market share. So there's a lot of headroom because we believe that consumers will rise up. The premiumization trend is going to continue. And again, with motorcycles like the Hunter, we will attract first-time riders as well, not just upgraders from 100cc. So the opportunity in India is still enormous. Then, of course, there's the international markets. We've strategically embarked on going in international markets many years ago. And the journey has been super exciting. But there's been a lot of foundation work. It's been about understanding the consumer, understanding the markets, and being out there, serving the markets, not necessarily with a plant. That's not our vibe. It's more with a market company or with teams, with understanding and with doing interesting things there and seeing how consumers respond to us. And we're at the start of the journey. The market in mid-size outside of India is equal to or perhaps even larger than the market in India itself. And this is a market that we created in India, right? I mean, if Royal Enfield wasn't there, it's possible that this 1 million market of mid-size could have been 50,000 today, right? Because nobody was around and nobody cared about this market. Similarly, we can grow the market internationally. We're in that space now. We're confident that we can say we can actually not just take share of a 1 million market outside of India, we can actually grow that market. How? In markets like Thailand, where we were just there riding the hunter and enjoying ourselves thoroughly, it's a very step-through oriented market. There's, in fact, not that many motorcycles. Okay, there's a few mid-sized motorcycles, there's a few smaller motorcycles. But if you have really good offer, if you have really good experience, if you have a really good product, all of that, people will come like they did in India. So there's that entire global opportunity out there. There are all the adjacencies which we're just starting to work on. I mean, first we said let's grow to a level and then we can work on adjacencies. We've got thriving adjacent businesses, let's call them, which add a lot of value back to the brand, back to the mother brand. So our accessories, our apparel, of course, spare parts, which is always going to be there and is interlinked. But these are adjacencies. There are lots of other adjacencies we're working on, lots of other commercial projects and these are not standalone projects. These are things that will add back a lot to the parent brand, to the motorcycling experience, to the pure motorcycling experience that that is Royal Enfield. So there's that. And then, of course, further growth opportunities in EV, for example, right? So this is only the start of something new which is going to fold out over the next few years and decades. And it's fast moving, it's going to change a lot, the EV landscape. And we're very excited about it. We'll talk about it later. A little bit, not much. But it also allows us to do things that we couldn't do in our internal combustion engines, right? We can enter markets that we weren't able to enter in our current avatar. So a lot of growth opportunities for Royal Enfield. And just stay on growth for a second. But with a profitable focus. I mean, that profitability is always part of our DNA. It's not going to go. But the examples of the growth orientation are things like the Hunter, right? For example, because this is a motorcycle which was the planning started long ago. So it's not just suddenly, last minute we said, okay, let's come out with a motorcycle that will have a wider appeal, which will be at a very interesting price point, and that will grow the market. This thought process started in late 2016, maybe early 2017, when we were conceiving our J series. We said we need to have a roadster which will be more accessible, which will be different. Accessible not just from a price point, but also from getting riders who maybe find the classic a bit big or too traditional look. So that's on the growth and profitability focus. Then, the sustainability part. I talked about that. I sort of preempted that in the purpose part of the discussion, where we really believe that we need to balance our social and commercial objectives at Royal Enfield, and that this is something which comes very strongly within us, and from our consumers, from our employees, from everyone, from our stakeholders, our shareholders, from our investors. And we've got a lot of we've got a lot of traction on some areas, and of course, it feeds into the next, which is our EV bit. So again, that's another balance that we have to create at Royal Enfield. We've got a tremendous portfolio of internal combustion engines. It's, of motorcycles, sorry. Petrol motorcycles, let's call them. We've got what you're seeing now is the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of really interesting, really fun, but also, we believe, uh, very marketable, very interesting new segments that we're creating and we continue to create. So we see we've got a really strong portfolio of mid-size motorcycles which are coming up for markets around the world. Like you've seen in the recent past, all of our motorcycles are meant for all of the markets that we serve. Of course, they play slightly different roles in different markets, but all the motorcycles, even in the future, are meant for all the markets that we're in. That's on the petrol bikes. We're super excited about that. But we also have been working for years now, for many years, 3-4 years, on our EV program. But as we do, a lot of our work right now has been more in understanding. It's more consumer understanding, understanding the technology, understanding how it fits into people's lives, how do you take advantage of electric motorcycle? We're not going to do lazy things like take a classic, stick in a battery pack and hope for the best. That's not how we operate. It's really to see how electric technology can be harnessed in the best way possible. And so we've done a lot of consumer work. You'll see some of that in the later presentations. And from that, we have now programs. Some are in early development stage, some are still in concept stage. There are some where we're just throwing things around, putting things together. So we have different concepts of EV at different stages. It's still a long way away. You're not going to see anything for the next 3, 4, 5 years from Royal Enfield. But when you do see something, it's going to be spectacular and it's going to be different and it's not going to be something which is, like I said, a copy-paste or cut-paste job. It's going to be something tremendously exciting. Otherwise, we won't come out of it. So that's on the EV side and petrol bikes. Then, of course, last but certainly not the least is brand-led customer experience. And it's the customer experience part which is now taking front stage for us. We've nearly come a full circle from 20 years ago, which is where we started the whole idea of a different customer experience. When all the other motorcycle companies were getting, some big film star or cricket star to endorse their motorcycle, and everyone knew that guy wasn't riding that bike, right? I mean, everyone knew that. They caught them out. But so it's fake, right? I mean, it's quick, it's easy, you can hopefully get eyeballs, but it doesn't do anything for the brand, really. So that's when we started doing real experiences, fun, riding, events, adventure, and moving into the next, into the last 20 years, into sport. We do very ground level sport. We do flat track and GT Cup racing and custom motorcycles and so many fun things. And that's what has built the brand in the way that it has over the years. But now we're having a full with new take on it. The entire market has changed. Consumers have changed. Their habits have changed. How they talk to us has changed. What they put more value in, what they put more weight behind has changed. And we are on the front of that change, and we're evolving tremendously to let's say, to not just adapt to that change, but to set the standard and for consumers to rise up to what we're doing as well. So it's a bit of both. We're learning and we're setting new ideas and standards. So there's a lot of interesting things we're doing that you're going to hear about later as well. So that's on the brand part. And Where does that lead us? So all this rebalance stuff, where does that lead us to? It's, it's in response not just to a changing universe outside of us. That means or maybe our stakeholders, our consumers, our community, all of that. It's strongly driven from within as well. We believe that we need to evolve in this fashion that we're talking about with all these different changes. We truly believe that. But what it's going to do also is evolve brand Royal Enfield with consumers. The affinity. People are looking for something different. People don't now, and certainly more and more in the future, it's not just about a good product or a good brand and you're going to buy it. What does the company stand for? What is the ethos of the company? How is the governance of the company? What is the sustainability record of the company? It's so important to consumers as well. It's so important to employees. So people who are joining Royal Enfield, who are already a part of Royal Enfield, they want to be a part of something much bigger, not just a very commercially bent organization. They want to be a part of an organization that has more meaning and that they can really put their soul behind, not just spend a few hours and go back. It's if you want that kind of passion from people, you got to also show that kind of love for things beyond just commercial interests, and that makes for more engagement as well, we believe, and same with same for shareholders and for investors. I think that's really the future. It's beyond just hardcore commercial interests. But the irony nearly is that all this that we're talking about and that we're embarking on and we've embarked on also makes for a much more resilient long-term company. You have better affinity with customers, you have better affinity with employees and with other stakeholders. That makes for a company that is more resilient and more new age and therefore attracting a different audience and actually increases value all around. So it's a win-win-win for all stakeholders. That's our belief, and that's how we look at this entire picture of rebalance at Royal Enfield. And so yeah, that's by and large it for me. You're going to hear, you've got a long day ahead of you. We've got Govind after me, and then we've got Mohit, who's going to talk to us about brand, and then is it Mark? Oh, Matt, Mark, Simon, Matt, Simon, Mark, sorry, wrong order. And last but not the least, oh no, not last. Then Kalish, and that is the sort of RE/EML portion. And then, of course, we have the dark horse business, VCV, which gets less attention from you all, but is enormously promising. And Vinod Agarwal will take us through what's going on at VCV and why we think it's so interesting and what's happening in. And we're really building something super special there, and the results are also out. So, out as in not the quarterly results, but as in we can see how things are progressing really well. So yeah, looking forward to this day. We've got a session at the end. We're going to wrap up. We've got question answers, and yeah, once again, really happy to see you all. Thank you all for coming all this way to interact with us. And now I'm going to invite Govind Rajan on stage. And firstly, I'm delighted to have Govind Rajan as CEO. The great thing is that between Govind and me, we have super complementary skills, right? So we're sort of at that intersection point. So what were we saying? I don't know. I think we said between Govind and me, we have nearly 50 years jointly in Royal Enfield. So it's, we don't look that old, of course, but we have a lot of years at Royal Enfield together, working super closely together. And I'm delighted that Govind, as CEO now, and working, both of us working again super closely together in different avatars, of course. But so yeah, Govind is going to talk to you about what's been going on at Royal Enfield all these years and how he's looking at things from his perspective. So thank you very much, and over to you, Govind.